Story 1. Let me back up a bit. I'm a college junior, and my cousin had just graduated high school with honors. She'd worked incredibly hard maintaining a 4.0 GPA while participating in debate club, volunteering at the animal shelter, and holding down a weekend job. My aunt and uncle were understandably proud and wanted to throw her a celebration worthy of her achievements. They live in one of those suburban neighborhoods with an active homeowners association, the kind where everyone knows everyone else's business. My aunt had secured permission to host a graduation party in the community center, a spacious building with a kitchen, large gathering area, and a small garden patio. She spent weeks planning everything down to the last detail. The party was scheduled for Saturday afternoon. I arrived early to help set up, along with a few other family members. The decorations were beautiful blue and gold balloons, the school colors, congratulations graduate banners, and photos of my cousin throughout her school years arranged on a display board. The table settings were elegant, but not over the top, and the catered food looked delicious. But the centerpiece of it all was the cake. My aunt had ordered it from an upscale bakery in the city, 3 tiers of vanilla and chocolate, decorated with hand-piped flowers and a miniature graduation cap on top. It wasn't just a cake, it was a work of art, and my aunt had spent a small fortune on it. The party started at 2 p.m. About 50 people showed up, family, friends, teachers, and neighbors. My cousin was glowing with happiness as she greeted everyone, accepting congratulations and well wishes. Everything was going perfectly. There was music, laughter, good food, and a slideshow of memories playing on a projector. Around 4 p.m., just as we were preparing to cut the cake, it happened. The door to the community center burst open, and a woman stormed in. I'd never seen her before, but I later learned she lived 3 houses down from my aunt and uncle. She was maybe in her mid-40s, with an expensive-looking haircut and designer clothes that couldn't quite hide the fact that she'd had a few drinks before arriving. Behind her trailed a teenage boy who looked like he wanted the floor to open up and swallow him whole. The room fell silent as she marched straight toward the cake table, her face contorted with anger. Excuse me, can I help you?" I stepped forward, thinking maybe she was lost or confused about which event she was attending. "Woman, so this is what special treatment looks like." She gestured wildly around the decorated room, nearly knocking over a vase of flowers. My aunt approached cautiously. "Aunt, is everything okay? This is a private party for my daughter's graduation." "Woman, I know what it is. The whole neighborhood knows. You've been talking about nothing else for weeks." Her voice was getting louder with each word. People were starting to murmur, and my cousin looked mortified. "Woman, my son should have graduated too. But that witch of a math teacher failed him by 2 points. She pointed at her son, who had backed up against the wall, his face bright red with embarrassment. "Uncle, I'm sorry to hear that, but this isn't really the place to—" "Woman, not the place. You all get to celebrate while my son gets nothing. After all the money I've donated to that school." By this point, one of my aunt's friends had discreetly stepped out to call someone from the HOA board. The woman's son was tugging at her arm, trying to get her to leave. "Son, Mom, please, let's go home." "Woman, no, this isn't fair." And then, before anyone could react, she lunged toward the cake table. With one swift movement, she pushed the entire 3-tier masterpiece to the floor, where it landed with a sickening splat. Blue and gold frosting exploded across the hardwood floor, and the little graduation cap rolled under a nearby table. The room gasped collectively. My cousin burst into tears. My uncle stepped forward, his face red with anger. "Uncle, what the hell do you think you're doing? Woman, now you know how it feels to have something ruined." It was at this moment I noticed my aunt's friend had returned and was filming the entire scene on her phone. Several other guests had their phones out too. My uncle took a deep breath, visibly trying to control his temper. "Uncle, you need to leave, now, before I call the police." "Woman, go ahead, call them. I'll tell them how this whole neighborhood discriminates against my family." Just then, Two men in polo shirts with the HOA logo entered the room. They were both board members who lived nearby. HOA member 1, what's going on here? Woman, oh look, the neighborhood patrol is here. Come to protect your favorites. HOA member 2, ma'am, you need to calm down and leave the premises immediately. Woman, I will not. My son deserves a party too. HOA member 1, this is a private event that was properly registered with the HOA. You're trespassing and causing damage to community property. Woman, oh, please, I pay the same dues as everyone else. HOA member 2, which gives you the right to use the facilities when properly scheduled, not to disrupt other members' events. Now, are you going to leave voluntarily, or do we need to call the authorities? For a brief moment, I thought she might actually calm down and leave. But instead, she grabbed a glass of punch from a nearby table and threw it at the photo display, soaking several of the pictures. That was the final straw. My uncle pulled out his phone. Uncle, that's it. I'm calling the police. The woman's son finally managed to grab his mother's arm and started pulling her toward the door. Son, Mom, stop it. We're leaving right now. She resisted for a moment, then seemed to deflate slightly, allowing him to guide her toward the exit. But she couldn't resist one final parting shot. Woman, you all think you're so special with your perfect children and your perfect lives. Well, enjoy your ruined party. As they reached the door, she tried to knock over a speaker, but her son stopped her. They disappeared into the parking lot just as we heard sirens in the distance. The aftermath was chaotic. My cousin was still crying, my aunt was trying to salvage what photos she could, and guests were helping clean up the mess of cake and punch on the floor. The police arrived a few minutes later, and several people showed them the videos they'd taken of the incident. One of the officers took statements while the other went to the woman's house. They returned about 20 minutes later to inform us that they'd issued her a citation for criminal mischief and trespassing. They also advised my aunt and uncle that they could pursue civil damages for the ruined cake and photos. The party eventually resumed, albeit with a somber tone. Someone ran to the local grocery store and returned with a sheet cake that read, "Congratulations," in generic blue frosting. It wasn't the same, but my cousin managed to smile when we sang to her. The real fallout came in the days that followed. The videos of the incident spread through the neighborhood's social media groups like wildfire. The HOA board called an emergency meeting, where they reviewed the footage and heard testimony from party guests. 3 days after the party, my aunt received a formal letter from the HOA board. They had voted unanimously to impose the maximum fine allowed under their bylaws against the woman for her behavior. More significantly, they had also voted to ban her from all community facilities, the pool, tennis courts, clubhouse, and community center for a full year. But the icing on the cake, no pun intended, came when the school board got involved. Apparently, the woman had been making similar scenes at school, demanding her son's grade be changed. The school had been documenting her increasingly erratic behavior, and our incident was the final piece of evidence they needed. They issued a no trespass order, barring her from school property except for essential parent-teacher conferences, which would now be supervised by administration. As for her son, I actually felt terrible for him. My cousin told me later that he'd been a grade below her and had a reputation for being quiet and studious. The math teacher he supposedly failed him hadn't failed him at all. He'd gotten a D, which was technically passing, just not high enough for graduation requirements. He could have taken summer school to make it up, but his mother had refused, insisting the grade be changed instead. The saddest part? My aunt later learned that the woman's husband had left her earlier that year, and she'd been struggling with alcohol issues ever since. Her son ended up moving in with his father in another state to finish high school. The whole neighborhood watched as a for sale sign went up in front of her house about 2 months later. She moved away before the next school year started, but the story of the cake destroyer lived on in neighborhood lore. My cousin is thriving in college now, and we've all moved on from that disastrous day. But every time there's a family celebration, someone inevitably jokes, "Hide the cake." It's become our weird family tradition, a reminder that even in our worst moments, we stick together. And my aunt. She makes sure to get event insurance for every party now. Lesson learned. Story 2. Shopping with an 8-month-old baby is never easy, but I've gotten pretty good at it. My little boy is the light of my life, born after years of trying and 2 miscarriages. My husband and I had almost given up hope when our miracle happened. Now, I guard this child with everything I have. Being a new parent meant learning to balance everything: work, home life, and taking care of a tiny human who depends on you completely. I'd gone back to my job part-time 3 months ago, working from home 3 days a week and going into the office twice. My husband and I tag-team childcare, with my mother-in-law helping on days we both had to be out. That particular Saturday, my husband was at a conference for work, and I needed to pick up a few things at the mall. Nothing major: some new clothes for the baby who was growing faster than seemed possible, a birthday gift for my sister, and maybe a coffee to keep me going. Normal weekend errands. I have a routine for mall trips with the baby. I use the fancy stroller my parents bought us, the kind with good suspension, plenty of storage underneath, and a secure 5-point harness to keep my little guy safe. I always park near the family spaces, bring extra everything: diapers, wipes, clothes, snacks, and try to time our visit between his nap and next feeding. The mall was busy, but not packed. Weekend shoppers, teenagers hanging out, and other parents with children in tow. I'd been there about an hour, successfully finding cute clothes for the baby and a nice scarf for my sister. My little guy was being an angel, looking around with wide eyes at all the colors and people, occasionally babbling happily. I stopped at a bench near the food court to check my shopping list and reorganize my bags. The stroller was right in front of me, within arm's reach, with my baby securely strapped in his 5-point harness. I looked down for maybe 20 seconds to check something on my phone. That's when I felt movement. I glanced up to see a woman probably in her 50s, expensively dressed with highlighted blonde hair, leaning over my stroller. "Me? Excuse me, what are you doing?" She ignored me completely. Before I could even stand up, her fingers were working at the straps of my baby's harness. "Me, hey, get away from my baby." I lunged forward, but not before she had unclipped my son and was lifting him out of the stroller. My heart nearly stopped. "Me, put him down, that's my baby." The woman had the audacity to roll her eyes at me while holding my child. "Woman, calm down. I'm just looking at him." She placed my baby on the bench beside me, far too casually for my comfort, and then grabbed the handles of my stroller and started to turn it around. "Me, what are you doing?" "Woman, I need to borrow this. Mine broke, and I have a lot of shopping to do." I snatched my baby from the bench, holding him protectively against my chest. He was starting to fuss, sensing the tension. "Me, you can't take my stroller. Are you insane?" "Woman, don't be so selfish. Your baby is fine on the bench. I'll bring it back when I'm done shopping." She actually started walking away with my stroller. I stood up, juggling my now crying baby and my purse, completely shocked. "Me, stop. Security. This woman is stealing my stroller." Several people turned to look. A mall security guard who had been standing near the food court started walking over. The woman stopped, turning back with an expression of pure annoyance. "Woman, stop making a scene. I told you I'm just borrowing it. You don't need it right now anyway." "Security guard, what's going on here?" "Me?" This woman unstrapped my baby, put him on the bench, and tried to walk away with my stroller. The security guard looked skeptical, glancing between us. The woman put on a sweet smile. "Woman, there's been a misunderstanding. I thought she was done with it. My grandbaby's stroller broke, and I just need to borrow one for an hour." Security guard, "Ma'am, you can't take someone else's property." "Woman, it's just a stroller." She's being dramatic. "I would have brought it back." I was shaking by this point, holding my baby tightly. "Me?" She unstrapped my baby without my permission and put him on a bench. He could have fallen off. The security guard's expression changed immediately, becoming more serious. Security guard, she removed your child from the stroller? Me, yes. I looked down for a second, and she was unclipping him. Then she just set him on the bench and tried to walk off with the stroller. The woman scoffed and rolled her eyes again. Woman, the baby is fine. Nothing happened. Why are you all making such a big deal about this? By now, a small crowd had gathered. A younger woman stepped forward. Witness, I saw the whole thing. This lady definitely unbuckled the baby and put him on the bench. The mom is telling the truth. The security guard pulled out his radio. Security guard, I'm calling for backup and the police. Woman, the police? Are you kidding me? Over a stroller? Security guard, no, ma'am, for child endangerment. The color drained from the woman's face. Woman, child endangerment? That's ridiculous. I didn't endanger anyone. Security guard, you removed a baby from a secure harness without the parent's permission and placed him in an unsafe position. Then you attempted to take the parent's property. The woman's demeanor changed completely. Suddenly, she was the victim. Woman, I was just trying to help. I thought the baby looked uncomfortable in that tight harness, and I was only going to borrow the stroller for a little while. This is completely unnecessary. A second security guard arrived, and they moved us to a quieter area near the security office while we waited for the police. The woman alternated between angry outbursts and tearful pleas about how this was all a misunderstanding. The police arrived about 15 minutes later. They took statements from me, the witness, and the security guards. They reviewed the mall's security footage, which clearly showed her unstrapping my baby and attempting to walk off with the stroller. Officer, ma'am, we're placing you under arrest for attempted theft and child endangerment. Woman, this is outrageous. I want to speak to your supervisor. I was just trying to borrow a stroller. I didn't hurt anyone. Officer, you put an infant at risk by removing him from his secure harness without the parent's consent and placing him in an unsafe position. That's child endangerment, regardless of your intentions. Woman, but I need to finish my shopping. My daughter is expecting me to pick up things for the baby shower tomorrow. Officer, you should have thought about that before touching someone else's child and attempting to take their property. As they led her away, she was still protesting loudly about how unfair everything was and how she was just trying to be practical. I heard her demand the officers' badge numbers and threaten to call her son-in-law, who works for the city. After giving my statement to the police, I sat in the security office trying to calm down while feeding my baby. An officer came back to update me. Officer, she's being charged with attempted theft and child endangerment. We've contacted her family. Apparently, she does have a pregnant daughter, but they're horrified by what happened. Me, I still can't believe someone would do that. Who just takes a baby out of a stroller? Officer, unfortunately, we see all kinds of behavior in this job. Would you like an escort to your car? I gladly accepted the offer. The security team was incredibly supportive, even helping me carry my shopping bags while I focused on holding my baby. Over the next few weeks, I received updates from the prosecutor's office. The woman apparently had no prior criminal record, but was known for entitled behavior according to her family members who spoke to the police. She had been planning her daughter's baby shower and apparently thought it was perfectly reasonable to borrow my stroller for her shopping rather than go buy or rent one. She ended up pleading guilty to lesser charges to avoid jail time. She received probation, a fine, and was ordered to take parenting classes, which seemed ironic considering she was about to be a grandmother. I also received a written apology, clearly crafted by her lawyer, that showed very little actual remorse. The most satisfying part came a month later, when I ran into the witness, the young woman who had spoken up for me at the same mall. She told me she was a nursing student and had been horrified watching someone handle a baby so carelessly. Witness, I overheard her at a restaurant last week. She was complaining to her friends about how she's now registered as someone who endangered a child and how it's affected her standing in her community. Her country club friends aren't too thrilled about it. While I take no pleasure in someone else's downfall, I do believe in consequences for actions. This woman felt entitled to my property, and, worse, felt entitled to handle my child without permission. The fact that she still didn't seem to understand the gravity of what she did was troubling. Since that day, I've been hypervigilant in public with my baby. I never look away from him, not even for a second. I've also become an advocate for parent safety awareness, sharing my story in local parenting groups to warn others. My husband installed a small alarm on our stroller that sounds if the harness is unbuckled by anyone but us. Maybe it's overkill, but after what happened, I'm taking no chances. Some people's sense of entitlement knows no bounds, and I learned the hard way that not everyone sees boundaries the same way I do. The most important thing is that my baby was safe. In the end, that's all that really matters. But I'll never forget the look on that woman's face, genuine confusion that someone would object to her borrowing a stroller and handling a baby that wasn't hers. Some people really do live in their own reality. Story 3. I've been running Imagination Station, my indoor play center and party venue, for almost 5 years now. After working in corporate event planning for a decade, I decided to open my own business focused on children's parties. It was the best decision I ever made most days, anyway. We're known for our custom birthday packages. Parents book a private 2-hour slot, choose a theme, and we take care of everything from decorations to food to entertainment. Our prices are reasonable for what we offer, and we've built a good reputation in our community. Last month, we hosted a birthday party for a sweet little girl turning 6. Her mom had booked our Enchanted Forest package, complete with fairy decorations, woodland-themed games, and a custom cake shaped like a toadstool. The birthday girl and 15 of her friends were having the time of their lives, running around in fairy wings and waving magic wands we'd provided. About halfway through the party, I noticed a man I didn't recognize walk in with a young boy, maybe 7 or 8 years old. This immediately raised red flags since we were closed to the public during private parties, and I knew the birthday girl's mom had given me a final guest list the day before. I approached them as they headed straight for the food table. Me. Hi there. Welcome to Imagination Station. Are you here for Emma's birthday party? The man barely looked at me as he piled a plate with pizza, fruit, and cupcakes. Man. Yeah. We're here for the party. He handed the plate to his son, then started filling another one for himself. Me. I don't believe I've met you before. Are you related to Emma's family? Man. We know them from school. Something felt off, but I didn't want to create a scene during a child's birthday party. The birthday girl's mom was busy taking photos, and everyone else seemed to be having fun. I decided to keep an eye on them while I helped with the next activity. For the next hour, the man sat in the corner on his phone while his son played with the other kids. When it was time for cake, he was first in line for a slice. And when we brought out the panada, he actually pushed past some of the smaller children so his son could have an extra turn. The final straw came during gift bag distribution. We always prepare custom gift bags based on the number of confirmed guests. The birthday girl's mom had splurged on some really nice items: fairy dolls, light-up wands, and personalized candy boxes. As I handed out the bags, the man approached me again. Man, where's our gift bag? Me. I'm sorry, I don't think I caught your name or your son's name on the guest list. He scoffed. Man, I'm Dylan's dad. We were invited. I glanced around and spotted the birthday girl's mom. She was helping a little girl untangle her fairy wings and hadn't noticed the interaction. Me. Let me double-check with Emma's mom. I walked over to her and discreetly asked about Dylan and his dad. Her expression immediately changed. Birthday girl's mom. Dylan? I don't think we invited a Dylan. Who's his parent? I described the man, and she shook her head. Birthday girl's mom. I've never seen him before in my life. Are they crashing our party? We both looked over at the man, who was now rummaging through the gift bags on the table. I walked back over, putting on my professional smile. Me. I'm sorry, but it seems there's been a misunderstanding. Emma's mom doesn't recognize you or your son. This is a private party, and we're at capacity for our insurance regulations. I'll need to ask you to leave. His face turned red. Man, are you kidding me? We've been here for over an hour. My son is having fun. Me. I understand, and your son is welcome to come back during our public hours. But right now, this is a private event that you weren't invited to. Man. Well, we already ate the food and participated. You can't kick us out now. Me. Actually, I can. This is my business, and this is a private event. I need to ask you to leave, or I'll have to call security. He grabbed one of the gift bags from the table. Man, fine, but we're taking this. My son deserves something for being kicked out. I gently took the bag back. Me. I'm sorry, but these are specifically for the invited guests. Each bag is personalized. He yanked it from my hands, opened it, and dumped the contents on the floor. Man, this cheap junk. You're making a big deal over this dollar store crap. The food wasn't even good, and the entertainment was boring. No wonder your business has bad reviews. By this point, several parents had noticed the commotion. The birthday girl's mom came over, looking upset. Birthday girl's mom, please leave now. You're ruining my daughter's special day. Man, whatever. This place sucks anyway. Come on, Dylan. He grabbed his son's arm and stormed out, but not before turning back and shouting. Man, I'm leaving a review about how you treat customers. You'll be hearing from me. After they left, I apologized to the birthday girl's mom and helped clean up the mess he'd made. We recovered most of the gift bag items and found an extra fairy doll to replace the one he'd stepped on. The rest of the party went smoothly, and by the end, the incident seemed mostly forgotten. Until the next morning, when I checked our Google business page, there it was a 1-star review from Dylan's dad, claiming that we had terrible customer service, stale food, and low-quality gift bags. He went on to say that we had embarrassed his son by kicking them out of a party they were definitely invited to, and that our venue was overpriced for what you get. I was furious. This man had crashed a private party, eaten food he hadn't paid for, tried to steal a gift bag, and then had the audacity to leave a negative review. Thankfully, I had evidence. Our venue has security cameras covering all areas for safety purposes. I pulled up the footage from the previous day, which clearly showed him walking in without checking in at reception, helping himself to food, pushing children aside at the pinata, and finally, the confrontation where he dumped the gift bag contents on the floor. I took screenshots of key moments and uploaded them along with my response to his review. Dear Dylan's dad, thank you for your feedback. However, I feel it's important to clarify a few points. According to our records and confirmation from the party host, you and your son were not on the guest list for this private event. Our security footage attached shows you entering without checking in, consuming food you did not pay for, and behaving inappropriately when asked to leave. At Imagination Station, we pride ourselves on creating special memories for children and their families who book and pay for our services. We would be happy to host you and your son during our public hours, where you can properly experience what we have to offer after paying the entrance fee, of course. We have also shared this footage with the party host, who may choose to pursue reimbursement for the food and damaged items. Within hours, my response had received dozens of supportive comments from regular customers and even people who had never visited our venue. The birthday girl's mom shared the story on her social media, thanking us for handling the situation professionally and exposing the truth. The man deleted his review 2 days later. I thought that would be the end of it, but a week after the incident, he returned during our public hours alone, without his son. He looked sheepish as he approached the front desk. Man, I came to apologize and pay for the food and the gift bag from last week. and to ask you to take down those pictures. Me. The review is gone, so I've removed my response with the images. But I'm curious, why did you crash a child's birthday party? He sighed. Man, my son's been having a hard time making friends. He came home saying a girl in his class was having a party, and I assumed he was invited. I didn't want to ask for details because he was so excited. When we got here and I realized we might not be on the list, I couldn't disappoint him. While I understood his motivation, it didn't excuse his behavior. Me. Next time, please just call us. We have public play sessions and events where everyone is welcome. Your son deserves to have fun in a way that doesn't involve crashing someone else's celebration. He nodded, paid for the food and damaged items, and left. Since then, I've implemented a stricter check-in process for private parties, complete with a guest list at the door. We've also started offering monthly open house parties specifically designed for children who might need extra help socializing. These events are supervised by our staff and include group activities that help kids connect with potential new friends. As for Dylan's dad, I haven't seen him back at Imagination Station. But last week, I received an anonymous donation to our scholarship fund, which helps provide birthday parties for families who can't afford them. The note simply said, "Everyone deserves to celebrate. Thank you for the second chance." I can't say for certain it was him, but I like to think that sometimes even entitled people can learn from their mistakes. Story 4. Back in the 90s, I took a summer job at a church that my grandparents attended and my family would occasionally attend. I was 16 at the time and did consider becoming a pastor after high school. The church I worked at was run by a husband and wife pastor team. Both seemed nice and welcoming and would answer a lot my questions regarding college divinity programs, degrees, internships, etc. This couple had replaced the founding pastor who had passed 5 or 6 years before. The founding pastor had a house built next to the church for Pastor Hausinkthis will come into play later. Like many other churches, they hosted a 1-week vacation Bible school. After the second day of Bible school, the female pastor saw that some of the snacks and beverage supplies were running low. She asked me to with her to a grocery store to buy more snacks and beverages. The grocery store we went to was known to hire adults with intellectual disabilities as baggers. The female pastor and I got what was needed and got in line. It was a busy day, and there were 2 customers ahead of us in the line. The bagger who had an intellectual disability was chatting with customers and the cashier. She had a speech impediment, and the female pastor laughed at how she was talking and turned to me and said, "Those people shouldn't be working here and are just a nuisance." I lost all respect for the female pastor. I didn't say anything, and yes, I regret it. The rest of vacation Bible school went well. I worked 2 more weeks, and then summer break was done. By the next summer, I took a job at a local hardware and lumber store. The owner, a guy with daughter with Down syndrome, would give discounts to churches, homeless shelters, and other non-profits. The husband and wife pastor had contacted the store regarding lumber and other materials to remodel a bathroom in the pastor's house. The store owner knew I had previously worked at that church, as I had listed them as a reference. The store owner mentions that the couple would be coming in later to look at pricing for materials. The store owner's daughter would sometimes help out at the store or just hang out. I make the decision to tell the hardware store owner about the female pastor's ableist comments about the grocery store employee from a year before. He wasn't happy. He said he would still do business with them, but wouldn't give them a discount. I always took pleasure in knowing that the female pastor's ableist attitude prevented her from getting a discount,